Hi, I'm Frank Shipley, creator of Go Thrive Abroad. I help people declutter and simplify so that they can live out their global dreams. My motto is less stuff, more life. For more information, check out gothriveabroad.com. All right, today I'm excited to have Mitch and Monique. Some call them M&M. I met them some months ago at a mutual friends dinner in Playa del Carmen. And right away, they were embraced by the folks that live here. It's safe to say that the folks that live here really love when they're in town, whether it's a brief stay or a long stay. We love having them here. So I want to welcome them to Go Thrive Abroad Conversations, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
Yeah, our pleasure. Happy to be here. And you and Tosh were immediately likable, so it was very mutual. So thank you for the warm words. We appreciated it.
Now, since I've met you at these various dinner parties and we've had conversations, you two have traveled quite a bit, and you tell me about your slow travel experiences where you spend more than 30 days in a country. If you could take me back to when the first time you decided you wanted to live abroad.
Let you take this one. Well, can I take you back to the first time we decided we wanted to be location independent?
Okay.
And that would have been 2000.
Wow.
We set up our businesses to be location independent, and we were hiring VAs before hiring VAs was cool. Because we really wanted, in our minds, we really wanted to be able to travel and be anywhere and not have people stuck in an office. We didn't want to be stuck in an office. We certainly didn't want people in our house. And so we, in 2018, we decided to sell our house and be digital nomads within the US. And that's what really taught us that, we can do this travel thing. We can do this travel thing. In 2021, we landed in Tulsa with a program that I'm happy to talk about later in the episode if you'd like. And we loved Tulsa. We had a fantastic experience, great community there. But it became evident that we could not live there for the winters. The temperature hit minus 27 degrees. And we looked at each other and we said, what the heck are we doing here? We can live anywhere in the world. Where is it warm? And so as I recall it, it was her looking at me going, what the heck are we doing? And this was December 2022. Why are we still in Tulsa? We could be any place we want to be. I'm cold. Let's get out of here. And it just so happened a friend of ours was coming to Medellin, Colombia, and because it was cold and she wanted to be warm, so she said, "I'm out. I'm heading to Medellin." And we're like, "Where is that? And can we come with you?" And so she explained where it was. It was in Colombia, and she said, "Yes, you can join us." I'm not sure she realized what kind of people we are, but like 2 weeks later, we show up in Colombia, and we expected to stay there 6 weeks and just kind of keep the frost off. We were there for 6 months.
Wow.
We only left because our visas expired and we had to get out of the country.
So I don't know if I heard this full story before. So was the original dream more US based traveling or worldwide?
We hadn't really considered, I mean, we were open to worldwide, but we hadn't considered bouncing around the world. We were comfortable bouncing around the US, but it so happened that in this program that we were in Tulsa, there were lots of people in the program who were already world travelers. And so we were thrown into this community of people who were visiting places in Asia and in South America and in Africa. And so it made it seem a lot more normal to do that. And so we thought, well, hey, we figured we'd give it a shot. If we hated it, we could always come back. But we wanted to see what it was like. We were a little anxious because, you hear Colombia and you think about, narcos and Pablo Escobar. Right. And so we get there and we're both from New York, or we both grew up in New York City. And so we know what a bad neighborhood is. And we looked around and said, this does not feel dangerous. In fact, this feels safer than most parts of Brooklyn
or Queens where we grew up. And so honestly, I waited for 3 months for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, okay, this can't be this nice. There's got to be some hidden thing that I'm not aware of, and it never happened. And
Mm-hmm.
6 months in, we were like, we love it here. We
Yeah.
don't want to leave.
Yeah. We always knew we wanted to travel, but I think our vision of what travel looked like was more tourist. So be in a home base, pick a city, live there for the long term, and then pop in and out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. It wasn't until we experienced Medellin did we see a design, a life design that said, huh, if we thought Tulsa was great until it got cold, we love some Medellin,
Right.
we didn't want to leave. Are there other cities anywhere in the world that we might like as much and possibly better?
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we haven't figured out how to really understand the vibe and the feeling and feel like you're not a tourist in just a week or two. And so that's how we kind of Forrest Gumped our way into this slow mad approach of living in a city 3 or 4 months at a time
Right.
to live like a local and feel like a resident and feel like it's home. And we, if our visa allowed it, we would happily be in Medellin for a year or two or three, but we also want to see the rest of the world. And
Okay.
so that's how we got to Slow Mad.
And just to be clear, we're not retired, so we're still working. So we're not. This is not 6 months of vacation that we were in Colombia. We were there working, and fortunately, we have jobs where we can do what we do from anywhere in the world. So why not do it someplace warm and beautiful with friendly people? And that's what we did, and that's what we do.
I
Yeah.
think what I like is this was not on your radar. It was really meeting some folks in Tulsa, having
Absolutely.
conversations and kind of thinking outside the box, and then you liked what you heard and you went for it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that is interesting to me. How you just shifted gears and went to Medellin. So when you first before you moved to Tulsa, right? When you decided, okay, we want to be location independent, was that the correct phrase?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you what did you do with your stuff? Were you able to purge and downsize? How were you so mobile at that point?
You want to take this?
So we we sold a lot of our stuff when we sold our primary residence in 2018. We didn't sell it all. We couldn't part with all of it. So unfortunately, we stored a good portion of it in self storage for about a year. And a year later, we went back to that self storage unit and realized that most of the stuff that was there we hadn't touched in a year. And so we ended up getting rid of it. And I think that's a
Right.
common dynamic. A lot of people think that they need that, textbook from high school.
Literally.
And then they come back and they go, you know what, I really don't need this. And honestly, um, from that to now, we have probably trimmed down another 50 to 70%. And I love it. I love not having a trail of stuff that we have to drag behind us. We think that the 3 or 4 suitcases that we have when we travel now is too much. I'd like to get that down to like one or two.
Right.
But I mean, do you really? I mean, I don't need 10 shirts and 10 pairs of pants, and I don't wear suits, so I don't need suits. So getting rid of the things that we don't need or don't use has been incredibly freeing for us. I don't have to worry about my stuff because I don't have a lot of stuff. And we try to avoid bringing on new stuff. So when people want to gift us stuff, we're like, thank you, we appreciate the gesture, but we don't want more stuff.
Right. Yeah, I really believe in that less stuff, more life.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Tosh and I, my wife, we were in the same situation when once we were gone from the material items that we left behind, we didn't miss it one bit. And then
Yeah.
you go back and you look at it, you're like, why do I have all this stuff? Let me get rid of it. And we got rid of the rest of the things that we were holding on to. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. It's a similar story in how you purged down and sold your house and everything. So
Yeah.
also, once you began living in like Medellin and you've been to Playa a few times, for us, a big shift was living in smaller spaces. like less closet space, a smaller kitchen. Was that a big shift for you at all?
So, to give it some context, when we got married many, many moons ago, we moved into a 3,000 square foot house,
Yeah.
4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and that was a beautiful house, but it was way more space than we needed, and we knew it. But it was a nice house. It's what you did, I guess, when you were getting married. And then we moved a few years later. We moved from that to a condo, which was about half the size, about 1,400 square feet, two, and that was fine. But for this new phase of our lives, we are accustomed to living in what is probably half of that, probably 700 square feet.
Hmm.
And that's fine because we don't have to be here a lot. I mean, we don't have, we live in the community. So there are coffee shops and there are other places, other spaces that we can meet in if we want to. And so we're really just here to eat, work a little bit, sleep, shower. And so we don't need a ton of space. So I haven't felt the need to have a lot more space. Maybe.
No, I'm fine with the space, but I think Mitch's point about the staged downsizing is what made it happen for us. I think it would have been a huge culture shock to go from 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths to a 700 square foot studio in Medellin. I think that would have been a bridge too far.
Right.
But we had been consistently downsizing and consistently wanting to shed. We together wanted to minimize. And so we consider it a win when we can be happy in a smaller space.
Right.
Now, we're not big cooks. I mean, we do cook, mostly Mitch, but we're not like gourmet cooks. So we don't need the huge kitchen that someone who considers that an important part of their life. So you sort of decide what's most important, and then make sure that the space fits the thing that's most important to you. So, for us, proximity to a track or a place to work out is more important than the size of the kitchen. The size of the bathroom, though, I do not like to compromise on that. I don't want my knees touching the walls when I'm
Right.
in the bathroom.
Right.
But that aside, the shift was gradual, and I think that made a big difference for us.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing your story because now I'm hearing more similarities. Tosh and I had a single family home that we renovated, and then we downsized to a townhouse,
Hmm.
and then we came here, we're in a condo. So it's similar in how we downsized and made that jump to living in smaller spaces, but it's less responsibility, it's less to
Hmm.
cool, it's
Mm,
less to clean,
mm,
and we're in a place where we can be outside pretty much 365, so you don't have to be cooped up inside all the time.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you two actually decide to do the international thing and you went to Medellin for a slow travel, what do you think your biggest hurdle was leaving the States and being outside of the country for more than 30 days? Was that tough to make that shift?
We're giggling because we couldn't leave soon enough. So we really were chasing the weather.
Yeah.
I was miserable in the cold. And so there were no hurdles. When Mitch said 2 weeks, it was literally 1 week when our friend landed, and 7 days later we were right behind.
Wow.
We
Okay.
could not leave the US fast enough. And it was a cold snap. So like even Houston and Florida, typically warmer climate cities during December, were still cold. So
Hmm.
we went straight for the beautiful, what was like 75 degrees in January 2023 at this time, weather, and no hesitation. In fact, within a month, we were begging our friends and family to come visit because we wanted them to experience it. Not necessarily for them to do a digital nomading thing, but just see what else is possible. You don't have to be miserable
Hmm.
in the cold. And it was hard not to fall in love with many of the other things that Medellin offers that the US doesn't.
Mhm. Now, this listen to your story. I love hearing it. One of the things I also want to ask you is the first time I realized when I left, we had moved to Playa. I went to the States for something real quick, had to take care of some business, and I came back. When I landed in Cancun Airport for the first time after living in Playa, I realized, okay, this feels like home. I was happy
Mhm.
to be back, and it was just like I felt the warm air, the sun was shining. Did you have a moment when you said, okay, I'm in Medellin or I'm in Mexico, I'm in Playa. This feels like home. I could really do this.
I think we had the reverse of that. When we have to leave to go back to the United States and we land in Kennedy or LaGuardia or Newark, we're like, oh, we're back in the US. And you can we joke that you can almost feel it the minute you land and you get to the airport baggage claim carousel. You can just feel the tension, people angry and frustrated. And God forbid you get on the highways to try to drive and people are yelling and screaming. And for 6 months in Medellin, we didn't see any of that, which is remarkable because their traffic, in my opinion, is way more challenging than ours. And again, we both drove in New York City. And so I
Right.
know what bad traffic looks like, and they have the same amount of cars plus motorcycles zipping in and out, and yet you don't have the road rage, you don't have the yelling and the screaming and the giving of the finger and the you have none of that. And to me, that's a minor miracle that that even exists. I would have thought that was impossible had I not seen it with my own eyes. And so yeah, we now that we go back, we leave the US and pretty much go anywhere, immediately we feel the tension go away and we can relax and feel like we're home. We've spent probably the most time in Medellin of all the places that we've been in. We've spent a significant amount of time in Lima, Peru, a fair amount of time now here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So there are lots of other places that are homier. But again, we're both from New York, but making me go to New York is punishment right now. I go there because my family's there and I love them, but
Right.
otherwise, I wouldn't set foot back in New York for more than a couple of days unless I absolutely had to.
Yeah. It's definitely a different pace of life. It's less stress once you leave,
Yep.
and people are calmer. Some of the
Yes.
guys we were joking last night that we feel like the stray dogs here are less
Yeah.
stressed.
Yeah.
They are.
Like they're
They
not
are.
trying to bite you, they're just trying to live their
Yep.
life.
Yep.
Yeah.
We made that observation too. In Medellin, Monique's not a big fan of dogs. The dogs are a lot less aggressive in Colombia, and we think it's because they take their cues from the owners. The owners are a lot less aggressive, so you don't
Hmm.
have that dog eat dog mentality. And so the dogs they're living their best life. They're well cared for in Medellin, and they're not studying you or anybody else. They're just trying to be their dog self and have the dog experience.
The best dog
Exactly.
experience.
The best
And
dog.
so it is, but there are a few things that are different. In restaurants, you will look around and you'll see dogs, but you won't know that they're there because they don't bark, they're not messing with anybody, they're just there.
Hmm.
And that's you don't have that in the US, but these dogs are chill, as Monique would say. They're super chill, and I like that. I love that.
They really are. Now, in Playa, there's a big pickleball community. I mean, it's like people are playing like all the time. There's pickleball games going on 7 days a week. And I know sometimes Monique will join me at the pickleball club and we'll play some games. For me, working less and traveling has allowed me to take up some different hobbies and follow certain interests that I may have. Has that happened for you too at all?
Yeah, most definitely. So, discovered pickleball here in Playa. And other hobbies include I am a regular attendee of a silent book club. It's a delightful experience, very nerdy, but really super cool. I just joined a running club.
Wow.
This week.
Cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's news right there.
Yep. And I will be learning a sport that was new to me, had not heard of it before. It's called front tennis. It is a combination of tennis and racquetball. So I'm looking forward to picking that up. And one more hobby that I get to do about once a week that we certainly did not have time or space in our life to do is to walk to the beach to see the sunrise
Oh, wow.
roughly between 6:30 and 7 a.m. to see that sun rise over the Caribbean Sea and let that sun wash over our face. It's an amazing experience that we're totally grateful that
Right.
we get to have here.
Right. Now, when it was -10 in Tulsa, that's not something you were doing
No, no,
at
Yeah.
all.
not at all. Not at all. I'm sure I forgot a few hobbies, but those are the ones that are routinely showing up
Hmm.
that we are able to build into our lives, which also brings and gives us community. So, those things we're experiencing with others, and it's another reason why it feels like home so quickly. That we've got an immediate group of friends and people that um, we feel connected to. It's it's really
Yeah.
something we're grateful for.
And
I
one thing I
mean,
will say about a lot of these countries, certainly Playa, Mexico, may have been the same way in Mexico City, I don't remember, but there's a lot more emphasis on outdoor activity, lots
Mm.
of families walking. Medellin has every Sunday, they have um, an event that encourages families to just walk. They shut down the main strip and they let people walk or bike or skate up and down that strip. And so uh, that emphasis, and maybe it's because the weather is nice, but that emphasis on getting outside and being active is something that certainly could be borrowed more from in the States. And maybe the weather again accommodates that, but that is something that's kind of nice to be able to be outside and see so many other people enjoying the outdoors and exercising and walking and just being active.
Yeah, it's called a ciclovia. It also describes the actual route. The thing that makes it even more cool, in addition to getting out and taking the family to move together, it bring an energy that I just hadn't seen anywhere else. So you have musicians playing on the side, you've got vendors selling their wares, you've got juggling artists and break dancers and
It's party.
outdoors church. It's this long 10-mile strip of an outdoor party where people are walking, running, biking, cycling along the way. It's
yeah, I feel like when you're not commuting to and from work, you're not stuck in traffic, you're not caught in the rat race, that you have time to like think and create what you want. I know you two have created like almost like a supper club dinner community that comes together every now and then for a dinner. And I just feel like at home we don't have the time to do some of these things that we can create here. So I really appreciate having that time of working less and living more, having less stuff and more life.
Well, and
So
also I would submit that both Medellin and Playa are walkable cities. It's almost a hassle to have a car of your own in Medellin or Playa. Atlanta, on the other hand, it's not walkable at all. You have to have a car to get around, and so everybody's in their own little isolated metal box, and you're in that box to go to work, and you get in that box to come back home, and then you pretty much stay home. And so it's a much different dynamic in places like here and in Medellin because everybody's out. And yes, there's mass transit, but it's it's easier for people, I think, to interact with each other. And there's a lot more walking and a lot more just healthy living. Not to say that there aren't unhealthy people in all those cities, but it's the norm is to see people walking, and that's not the norm in Atlanta, really.
right. I mean, the way Playa is set up is that everything is within blocks away.
Yep.
whether that's the fruit stands, produce stands, your laundry, your markets, everything is right nearby. Parks where you can exercise and work out. Everything is available within blocks away from getting there. So I love that about this city, and I feel like the States has kind of gotten away from that, and you have to
Yep.
drive to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Would
Um,
agree.
so for people who are interested in slow traveling, for decluttering, for getting rid of the stuff, maybe living abroad more, things like that. Do you have any advice or things that you would tell them to do or get started with?
Yeah. First, I would suggest making a super short list of their must-haves. So for us, top of that list was great weather.
Yeah.
So must have great weather. What was muchas? We wanted a city that had a university, so that it had sort of a young, growing feel with it. We also wanted good health care, just in case something happened to us, and access to healthy fruits and vegetables were a very simple list. We didn't have a lot of needs, but dare I say, weather was at the top. So, and that was for us. So, just having the four or five things, because that will eliminate many cities right off the bat. And then, with that list in mind, the second thing that I would recommend is go where your friends are. That was such a huge factor for us integrating into our first international city quickly. Our friends told us where to live, where not to live. What were the great restaurants, which ones to avoid? What are the great cafes? What are the great co working spots? Introduced us to their friends. We could borrow their friends because they were there already and almost were our ambassadors. And of course, we branched out and made our own way and made it fit for us. But there was no way to put in words how important it was to be able to pick up the phone and call a buddy and say, "Hey, I need blank. Do you know where I could get some?" And so those would be the first two steps: getting clear on your short list of must-haves, not things, but attributes of the where you want to live, and following a friend.
I'd also encourage people. I think of the world map as one big buffet table, and there's no rule that says you have to pick a place and stay there for 6 months. So you could try it for a week or two or three and see if you like it. If you hate it, you can try again. But I would encourage people to at least follow their friend and try some of these places. And oh, by the way, not believe the hype that the lies that we're told about a lot of these countries being dangerous or undeveloped or isolated, because that's just not the case. We landed in Medellin expecting to be kidnapped off the street and having to duck gunfire, and it was completely lovely. And again, we know what a bad neighborhood looks like, and so we're not saying that there aren't bad neighborhoods in Medellin. What we're saying is that the majority of Medellin neighborhoods are just as safe, if not safer, than most of the places that we grew up in.
Yeah.
And if you apply a little common sense, you're perfectly fine. But that shouldn't stop people from going. And I know a lot of people are terrified of coming to a place like a Colombia or a Peru because of what they've been told. Oh, it's going to be unsafe, and you're not going to have access to healthcare if you get sick, and you're not going to be able to. And it's just,
Why don't you share what you learned about food and healthcare for Lima, Peru specifically?
so I didn't know this when before we got there, but Lima, Peru is one of the culinary centers of the world, up there with Paris, New York, and I mean it is at the time we were there in 2024, the number one restaurant by at least the organization that had rated them in the world was in Lima. And we did not go to that restaurant because it was like $500 a plate. But my only point is that we have a tendency, we American U.S. folks, to think that the sun sets and rises on us and what we do, and there's this whole big world out there that is doing their own thing, and they have their own stuff going on, and the lies that we have been told, and in some cases tell ourselves about these other places, need to be challenged. And the best way to challenge them is to show people. Come visit Medellin and see for yourself if you feel threatened or nervous or anxious. And I mean, our experience isn't everybody's experience, but we feel Monique can walk down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning in Medellin, and I don't have the least bit of concern for her safety. And I can't say that about most places in Brooklyn or Manhattan or the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
So,
True.
Yeah, I also want to interject about the perceptions we have about U.S. when it comes to healthcare. One of the factoids that we learned is that the WHO has rated the U.S. in terms of healthcare globally in the 30s. It was 37 when I think we last checked. Colombia was in the top 10.
Wow.
So in terms of what we just assume that you'd get the best quality healthcare in the U.S. just isn't true. So being open to, I don't know how many number of things we're on, but being open to the idea that other countries may have done a better job in certain areas than the U.S. And while you're there, take advantage of it. So get your teeth cleaned in Colombia. Get all your routine healthcare done when you're in Colombia. Eat the great food when you're in Lima. And experience this amazing beach and Caribbean Sea when you're in Playa.
Yeah. And I want to add to what you both are talking about, because people can listen to what we're saying about Medellin, about Playa del Carmen, about these other cities, and they can watch YouTube and read articles, and they can fall in love with these cities. But until you get there, you may not know if it's the place for you. So you have to give yourself some flexibility to that first city might not be for you. And it's okay. You can go somewhere else, do an exploratory visit there, find out, talk to other expats and find out what you like, what you don't like. Give yourself the flexibility, because you may need to go to another city. It may not be your first stop. Maybe it's your second or third stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was true for us. We loved Tulsa until we didn't, and so we had to find another city.
Right.
Excuse me.
Right. Okay. Well, I also want you to share any social medias that you want to share with us, so folks can find you.
So I am primarily on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Mitch Messer there, but I think I'm at Mitch Messer. So I'm easy to find, and if they find me on LinkedIn, they're welcome to connect up with me. I'm pretty easy to connect with, and I love to network with people. I'd happily share my experiences and the resources that we got with respect to travel, because again, so many people shared their resources with us when we were just getting started. So I would love to be that resource for other people as they get started.
And Mitch also has a school group where I'm sure you'd be happy to have people reach out to you. My last name is so darn long. I think it'd be easier if I just messaged you my LinkedIn and Facebook contact info, so that people don't have to try to write it down.
You want to talk about the PwC?
Possibly. Just real quickly. In addition to following your friends, many cities have expat communities that come together either on Facebook or on WhatsApp or on Internations. These are a variety, Discord. Look for your people, and look for your people in the various communities that you're in would be our suggestion. So there's a Black women's expats group that I'm a member of, both in Medellin and Playa, but I'm also a member of a pickleball group, and I'm now a member of the Run Club group, and I'm a member of the Silent Book Club group. So you can find your people, however nerdy you might be, you can find your people that way.
It's really true. You can find your community before you even get on the plane. so that when you land in that city, you already have people that are looking out for you, willing to meet with you, willing to help you, help guide your way through that city. So I appreciate that information. That's true.
Yeah, it's great. All right.
And so everybody, you can follow me at Frank at Go Thrive Abroad on YouTube. You can also find me on Go Thrive Abroad on Instagram, and as well as my Facebook, Frank at Go Thrive Abroad. I want to thank Eminem, Mitch and Monique for joining us today, sharing their story about how they're living with less stuff and creating more life. We appreciate you sharing the knowledge and information with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.